So where is God during prayer? There's a lot of questions that come up when I pray and when I hear about other people's experience of prayer that aren't sure if they're just talking to themselves. So welcome back, everyone. My name is Maryl, and this is the channel where we talk about all things how to grow with God, specifically in prayer, but also how do we grow with God in our relationship. So don't forget to hit the subscribe button and let's get into it. So I often would pray and feel like I'm just talking to myself, and that was never a very fun experience in prayer. So I wouldn't do it. I would actually decrease my prayer life more and more. There are 4 things that I have practiced and I've seen other people practice, and it's helped grow their ability to hear God's voice and to see what He's doing in prayer. Number 1, that is to ask questions. Now, you think that might be obvious, but oftentimes we come to God with a list of things that we want Him to do, that we want Him to fix, that we want Him to make go away, and we often don't ask God what He thinks about what we're bringing. It's kind of scary to open that up, but part of a dialogue and a relationship is letting the other person respond, and we get frustrated when God doesn't respond, and yet we often don't ask God questions, specifically about what we're saying. So that could look like you sitting down and writing out what questions you would ask of God about what you want to talk about. That kind of seems a little counterintuitive when you think about just, well, God already knows what I'm saying, so shouldn't I just tell Him everything, and shouldn't He just respond accordingly? Why do I have to ask Him questions? But part of asking a question actually opens us up to receive from someone else. And so asking God, what do you think about what I just said? Or how do you feel about what I just said? Or God, what are you doing in this situation that I'm asking for? Say you're asking for healing, right? If you're feeling sick, or you really want this job opportunity and you're asking God for it. Asking God a question about what this job opportunity might actually mean for your relationship with Him, for your life, what else He might have in store for your life. Those kind of questions help create space for you to actually dialogue with God. The second thing, it might seem completely obvious, but slowing down and waiting for a response by being silent and pausing. Now, again, silence, super simple, but oftentimes we'll speak, and if we don't hear something right away, we get distracted. We'll go to the phone, or I'm so guilty of this, where I think, oh, God's not interested, He's bored, and I'll just leave. Or I hope He's not mad at me for asking that, and I'll run away or run out of prayer. And if we wait and pause and create space, what it's going to do, most likely, at least what I've experienced when I first started this, which is silence. I would hear nothing, emptiness. And it was like this vast cave, which was really uncomfortable and kind of awkward. But when I started to actually create space and listen, I could hear faint whispers. God, throughout Scripture, talks about having a still small voice. He encourages us in Psalm, be still and know that I am God. Stillness is not something that we're good at. Silence is another one. Often we come with our agenda. Of course, when we want to talk to somebody, we typically have something on our minds and hearts. And that is really good to get aware of when we start prayer. So one of the things I like to do before I begin is to actually pause and go, where's my heart? What do I actually really want to talk about? And I get to the truth of really what's going on. Oftentimes we want to be good in prayer, and that was my number one way of, if I just say the right thing to God, then I'm going to get Him to respond. I will evoke a response from Him because I've somehow been clever to craft my words to catch His attention. And that's sometimes how it works with other relationships, but God is completely attentive and present to us all the time. And when we have that in the back of our minds or as the framework of our prayer, we can rest assured that He is engaged in what we're talking about. But we can't often feel that. And one of the ways to do that is to take stock in what we actually are bringing. And I don't mean what our agenda is. I mean what is deep, deep down under our agenda. Whether that's something like you're feeling really lonely, or you're feeling really scared, or even a big question about God. You're not even sure God is listening. Allowing those questions to bubble up inside of you actually starts an honest dialogue. I found God does not want us to be good. That is a waste of time. He already knows. He wants us to be honest, because when we are in reality, that's where we grow. Asking yourself, what am I really bringing, is going to set you up for honest prayer. And I found that honest prayer is where God really deals with us. And I don't mean deals in like a harsh, negative way. Sometimes he has to, in concern, really discuss something with us, convict us, and that always leads to transformation if we allow it to. And I would also add, this is a little bonus tip, when you are thinking about what you are actually bringing deep down, taking a moment and asking God before you begin dialoguing to him and talking at him is to ask God, what does he want to talk about? And then wait. Asking God what his agenda is. What does he want? Is there something he wants to say? Oftentimes we run in again with our emotions and feelings, and while we need to be aware of what's going on in our heart, God may actually be wanting to have another conversation that may actually either speak to this one, or God may actually be wanting to have another conversation that may be speaking to the things that we are dealing with, but we won't know if we don't actually create space. Fourth thing, this one is post-prayer that I found great tool to train in reflecting back over the day. Say you pray in the morning. This particularly works if you're praying earlier on in the day or spending some time dialoguing with God, is if you pick a time, set a timer, make a date with yourself and God to go back and look at your day. And a couple questions that I would ask, and I'll write in the description below, is, God, where did I see you work today? How are you loving me today? God, that thing we talked about earlier? Where are we at with that? And then pause. God, what happened today? Where were you throughout my day? And I found that those simple questions really help us become aware of God, not just in moments of prayer, which are isolated, 5, 10 minutes, sometimes even 30 minutes of your day, but the whole day. And part of learning to discern where God is in prayer is that spills over into your everyday life, where all of life actually becomes a prayer. That when Paul talks about praying without ceasing, it isn't something that you can just automatically do. It's something that we grow in. It's something that we are trained in. So ask God questions. What does he feel and how is he responding to what you're saying? 2, pause. Take a moment and spend some time in silence, even if it's just for 5-10 seconds. That will really make a difference because it creates space for God to say something, even though it might be uncomfortable. 3rd, what are you actually really wanting to talk about? Don't just think about the surface things you want to pray for, but what's really going on. And that will take some self-reflection. And the bonus with that is, God, what do you want to talk about? And making space and asking him what his agenda is and waiting till something bubbles up. Now, it may not, but these are just things to try. And then the 4th thing is, find a time throughout your day to go back and reflect and see how God has answered or engaged with you throughout your day. And that will help you grow in discerning where God is in prayer, where God is throughout your day, and what he's doing. God is constantly present to you. And these are some ways to train our minds and our hearts to actually be open and be receptive to God. So give it a try. Leave a comment below if you like one of them, if you have other ideas of ways in which you've learned to discern God's voice. I would love to hear your feedback. This is not a exhaustive list. These are the only 4 things. These are just 4 things that I think are really paramount and really effective in learning to cultivate a life of prayer if they're practiced often. And don't forget to like or subscribe if you got value from this video and if you want to hear more content. So, all right, see you later.